Shaily Baranwal is the founder and CEO of Elevate K-12. She started Elevate K-12 with a passion for bringing high-quality, synchronous instruction to K-12 schools to solve the teacher shortage crisis. Shaily is a non-conformist, disrupting the status quo to truly make an impact in the educational field and beyond. Prior to starting Elevate K-12, Shaily was a management consultant at AT Kearney and has founded both a chain of preschools and a chain of restaurants in India. Her restaurant chain was acquired by India's largest food and beverage conglomerate, Dabur. Elevate K-12 is backed by General Catalyst, Arsenal Growth Equity, and other notable investors. Shaily holds degrees in industrial engineering and early childhood education, as well as an MBA from the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business. She is on the board of the University of Michigan Zell Lurie Institute and advises the development of students who want to take and continue on the path to entrepreneurship. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to subscribe.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and the managing partner of Growth Cap. He is the host of Great Entrepreneurs, a podcast for driven entrepreneurs and business owners. Our podcast covers all topics related to the entrepreneurial journey, from ideation to execution to optimization and to reaping the rewards of a well-run business. In the minutes ahead, we'll share with you unique insights and tactics from some of today's most accomplished and inspiring entrepreneurs.
Shaily, thank you so much for taking the time. It's a delight to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
I do a fair amount of research before we kick off a podcast episode, and I noticed that you posted about Sam Zell. I was just having a conversation about him the other day. That's really interesting that you knew him and he influenced you in some way. If we could start there, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, sure. It actually starts with my journey of how I got to the US. So I'm from Mumbai, India. I came to the US to get my MBA, went to University of Michigan Ross School of Business. I have always been a non-conformist my entire life. It's really ironic that I have an edtech company, but not really, because I love knowledge acquisition, but I hated the structure of school. And I hated it my entire life, like seriously. When I came to business school, the same thing happened. I was sitting in classes, doing my MBA, and just wanted to understand America and explore America. And University of Michigan had a Zell Lurie Entrepreneurial Institute where they actually encouraged students who wanted to take the entrepreneurial path to come and take workshops and get resources there. And I beat the hell out of that institute. And I would spend most of my time there. And through that institute, I got an opportunity to meet Sam Zell because that institute was funded by him. And it was amazing to meet such a powerful, such a passionate, non-conforming entrepreneur so early on in my life. And I remember while I was in business school, I was trying to explore to start different kinds of companies. And a lot of the university people were not okay with that because I was doing that by missing classes. And that is when Sam Zell spoke to the dean and made sure that I was able to follow my own path and design my own MBA path, which is completely unheard of. So I had the opportunity of meeting him periodically. In 2017, he invited me to join the board of the institute. And then I got to meet him more frequently and got to learn from him. So he's been such an amazing influence in my life because he was the first entrepreneur I ever met when I came to this wonderful country.
And if you could pin one characteristic to him and maybe how that influenced the way you think about entrepreneurship, what would that be?
I found something in him that I thought was a quality in mine, which coming from India was not celebrated, but coming to the US was actually celebrated. And I'm not going to use a swear word here, but he said, don't give a about anything that anyone ever tells you that you can't do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, most of the people are not going to believe you. Most of the people are not going to understand you. And they're going to tell you that whatever this idea is not going to work. And being calculatedly ambitious and owning your idea especially when you're doing something groundbreaking is what he taught me, because he was so bold. Like if you've seen him on CNBC in the morning, he doesn't hold back on any words. And that boldness was something that taught me a lot, because I've met many entrepreneurs across my years of being here and my journey, but he definitely was one that I probably aligned with the most.
Now, you've been a repeat entrepreneur. Can you tell us about your journey, maybe starting with your first entrepreneurial endeavor?
Yeah. So my father is an entrepreneur and he's a very good entrepreneur. He's 76 now. He just tripled the revenue of his company over the last 1 year, started two healthcare software companies. Like he's not going to stop. And what he taught me early on in my life is you don't become entrepreneur because you want to be rich. You become an entrepreneur because you want to influence people and you want to change people's life. So that passion for doing something for the customer and causing disruption was what I saw growing up. And I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I never found a great idea. I did my engineering. I tried working with my dad for a year. It didn't work out just to piss him off. I got a teaching degree because Asian parents are going to hate that. So I totally did that. And he did not enjoy that, but I loved that. And then I came to the US. And my first company was after I went back to India. So I started a chain of preschools in India, in rural India, multiple locations within 1 year. Then I started a chain of restaurants in Mumbai. And this was between 2010 and 2014, 2015. And then I had a personal tragedy in my life. So I closed my preschools, sold my restaurants, and moved back to the US early 2016 and started Elevate K-12. So, yes, Elevate K-12 is my third company, but it's my first high growth company where we sought for investments and had VCs backing us. And we landed up building a category and landed up having a first mover advantage and now the first scaler advantage too.
I remember when ed tech was really the buzzword, and this is going back quite a ways. And no one would think that, there's just this continual cycle of innovation. So very excited to hear more about Elevate K-12. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about it? Why is
So
it different?
again, why is it different? When I first came to this country and when I was in business school, I knew nothing about the K-12 space here. I had experience in K-12 because, after my engineering degree, I got an early childhood teaching degree. So I had a degree in early childhood education. I'd worked for 3 years as a teacher in India. Coming to US, the K-12 system here is very different. And because I was so passionate about EdTech, I started voluntarily teaching as part of the Junior Achievement Program in the local Ann Arbor public schools. And that's when I realized that the kids who I was teaching voluntarily, I was the first grade 8 math volunteer teacher they had seen in years. So what that means is that because the zip code of where the kids were located was low income, they had a natural gap of talent of teachers. And the children were just sitting in front of a computer and watching some software and self-teaching themselves. So I saw the problem that you are check boxing and saying this is a teacher because you can't find a teacher and really not providing actual teaching and education to the children. And I started thinking about is there a way to bridge the gap between the location of the children and the location of a teacher without taking the core and essence of teaching, which is same teacher teaching the same group of kids, not online tutoring, not virtual learning, completely different. And I started with this bold idea in 2016, started to get customers onboarded with this idea and then started to go to investors. Nobody believed me. Nobody. Every single edtech investor said, what are you talking about? All they would believe in is freemium software companies like, Edmodo and some of the others. You give it free to the district. It's a nice to have. It improves the experience. But because our way of working was so different from a traditional investor model, most investors told me no. I had so much conviction because I was talking to the superintendents and the schools and districts, and they were celebrating the idea and were giving me opportunities that it didn't even bother me. I just had to work a little harder to get the right money from the right investor who believed in it. And look, here we are, about to do
Mhm.
our next round of funding and probably one of the fastest growing ed tech companies.
So then is it a recruitment of teachers? And then on the other side, it's identifying which of the programs across the US need the most help and then pairing them up?
So we are a teaching company. So we're not a staffing company. So we don't just provide a teacher and walk away. We actually own the entire teaching ecosystem within a district. So we provide number of hours of instruction, and then the district then uses those hours of instruction to deploy to any of the schools where they have a teacher gap. And in that ecosystem, we built our own technology. So we don't use Zoom or Google. We actually built our own virtual classroom, our own LMS, because our ecosystem and modality was different. Our modality is that children sit in one classroom in the school. They're all sitting together, and the teacher, so let's say the kids are in Houston, Texas, and the teacher is in Florida, working from home, and the teacher is streaming straight into the classroom. So we landed up creating this two-sided network. So it's a fully managed teaching service, and the districts are absolutely loving it. So in the two-sided network, on one side, we have the schools and districts, and the other side, we have the teachers. And what ties it together is our digital platform. So we own the entire ecosystem in that way.
Okay, excellent. And there's no hardware involved. It's mostly the software. It's a digital solution.
The schools already have the ecosystem of the hardware required. I never wanted to be an asset heavy company that's not very scalable. We have a clear path to being profitable very soon. We didn't need that. So the way we designed the product in the early stages of the development of the company was to think about being asset light and looking at the hardware that already existed in the district and designing an ecosystem around that. Like if you walk into some of the schools that use Elevate and have full adoption, half of the rooms are physical teachers and half of the rooms have live teachers. To a student in middle school, this is how school is. It doesn't make any difference to them. And we continue to be that Spanish teacher or that science teacher year after year. So the district or the school never, ever now has to run a class without a real teacher. On the other side, there is this whole workforce transformation. Okay. 10% of my current teachers live the van life. So they are backpacking in Mexico or Spain or Thailand. They are actually American citizens who are living somewhere else. They have American certifications and they're streaming into the classroom. So as you think about every industry going through workforce transformation, you can change that. I can change that. We have to be a part of the wave and design the ecosystem and take our antiquated mindsets and throw it outside of the window. And that's what we're doing. We're letting the schools know that your ecosystem of teachers is changing, but you haven't really changed the way you work. With us, now they get that flexibility. So teachers can stream from wherever they want.
It's really fascinating. The population of folks, not even young, they could be whatever age, but they have a desire to travel and be in other parts of the world, but yet they're highly skilled and highly motivated to do this work. So I guess the one question would be like the hours in which they're teaching and versus if they're in Asia somewhere. I guess you've been able to solve that easily.
Right now, only 10% of my teachers are backpacking around the world, but they like it, right? Like I was in a class the other day where that particular teacher was based in Kenya. And, he decided to wear the local outfit, showed up to the class on the big screen, and the kids loved it because it's also cultural diversity, cultural immersion that the kids get. The teachers get to pick the number of hours that they want to work. And it's not like Uber where, oh, it's one transaction here and there. Once the teachers commit to that hour, they get it for the whole school year. So it can be a part of your lifestyle. It can be your primary income. And that was very important to me. That when you build a two-sided network, the supply needs to continue to find value on the network. And we build the product and scale the company with that in mind, while not letting them lose the flexibility of picking their own hours. So it's actually a win-win. As we're scaling, we're seeing more adoption from both the schools, districts, and also on the teacher side. That yes, this can be a way that will completely flip the K-12 ecosystem. And we've been pretty fearless. Like I still don't care that much about what the market will tell me that this is not going to work. I'm only going to listen to my customers. I'm going to preempt their problems and we're going to make the bold decisions to continue to invest in it. And that's the only way we compete because we listen to our customers.
Yeah, it seems like you're scaling very quickly and you've got excellent investors backing you. I'm wondering, would you have been able to do this and scale as quickly as you're scaling if you hadn't had those prior entrepreneurial experiences?
I don't know, but I definitely learned a lot from my previous two experiences, right? I failed a lot. I failed now, right? But I think one of the skill sets that I feel as an entrepreneur is very important. Firstly, you need to believe that you're going to win. I always say, if firstly, you should have the capacity to dream, then you should have the belief that you're going to win. Then you need to have the creative mindset to be able to take that goal and idea where you want to get and convert that into this milestone business and rally a team around you who can go ahead and execute on that. Because many entrepreneurs can build small companies and they're lifestyle entrepreneurs. I've been there, right? I've been there, I've done it, I was successful there. But the thing is, to build a forever scaling company, then you need to build systems. And like from a founder to a CEO of a high growth company now, I have to continue to adapt myself, right? Because my C leadership right now is way smarter than me in that function. So how do I manage that? So I don't know if I would have continued to be this successful without those two prior experiences, but I definitely learned a lot, which definitely helped and aided a lot in faster growth, and especially in people management. You learn so much on how to hire people, how to extract the best out of them, how to look at bad talent and what to do, right? As important as it is to hire great talent, it's also important to continue to terminate bad talent. So I think those are some of the things that I learned.
I'm really interested in the distinction between the lifestyle entrepreneur
Mhm.
and the build an organization that'll
Yeah.
last forever. Do you think there is a combination? There's like, can you have a hybrid between the two, still build an organization that'll stand for 100 years or whatever the goal is,
Yes.
and still have that lifestyle?
Yes. So there are actually three types of entrepreneurships, according to me. Okay. Number one is lifestyle entrepreneurship. You own a coffee shop, you own three, four coffee shops. Yes, that can last forever. If you continue to add value to your customer and you don't have investors chasing you down for 80, 90%, 100% growth rates year over year, yes, you can absolutely do that. My dad is a lifestyle entrepreneur. He started his company in 1984, never raised investor capital, continued to be extremely competitive and successful, and his company is going to continue after him, right? So he built that. So yes, that is possible, but he didn't also grow at like 80% year over year, right? The money from his business is what went into product development and innovation. The second type of entrepreneur is a serial entrepreneur, right? Like I have a friend who used to work at PayPal, then left PayPal, and has now sold three companies to PayPal. He starts a company, takes investment, builds it for 3, 4 years, and then sells it back to PayPal. That's a serial entrepreneur. Then the third kind of entrepreneur is a high growth entrepreneur where you take investment and you continue to scale. Many of those don't like to do this beyond 5 to 6 years because the skill sets have to change. And there are many entrepreneurs like Brian Chesky showed that, Jeff Bezos showed that, Mark Zuckerberg is showing that if you can hire and attract great executive talent, you as a founder can continue to have the vision because then you become the chief visionary officer. Like you know the market better than any of your C suite. And that's the power that you bring to the ecosystem. I think any of them can be replicated to anyone, but you just have to see what works for you. I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea to do all three of them passionately. Like, I know I am not a serial entrepreneur because I will never enjoy to do and sell because money doesn't drive me. The passion for change drives me. I have been a lifestyle entrepreneur, so I have done that successfully, but I miss something. I'm so competitive that I wanted that constant challenge. But now, when I'm doing high growth, I am absolutely loving it every single day.
But you could not have done the high growth path you're on without the capital. Could you have done it just by really pressing on revenue?
So there are a couple of ways that I think about that. I did consider not taking capital, but capital does a couple of things for you. It not only gives you capital to invest, because without investing in product and technology, effectively, how are you going to continue to be competitive? You can totally do it. Like a Spanx did that, right? So Sarah Blakely never raised funding, continued to build a great company. I think there are ways to do it. I took a different path because for me, it was not just about capital. I got great resources from the investors. I learned so much from my investors. I was very careful to take money from investors who believed in a founder like me. So when a lot of investors would reach out to us, even today, many of them are reaching out to us. So my dad told me something when I took my first investor capital. He said, you can divorce your partner. You cannot divorce a board member or investor. They're on your cap table forever. So just be careful about it. Culturally, do you match? Do they believe in your vision? Do they give feedback properly? Do you enjoy working with them? So I did a lot of that diligence when I was taking money as well, just to make sure that there was a fit. That's all that mattered. So I got a ton of value from my investors apart from just capital. And yes, the company would not have scaled to this level if I would not have gotten those non-capital resources.
Mhm.
100%.
What's your biggest challenge currently?
I mean, every stage of the company is a different challenge. I think for us right now is scaling with fidelity. I wouldn't say it's a challenge. I think it's a focus because every challenge can be overcome by having a great plan and then executing really well to it. I think a focus in this new financial market is operational efficiency, financial efficiency, lean growth. Gone are the days of dumping money into growth. No investor wants that right now. Financial markets don't want that. We actually never did that because at the early stages, we did not attract VC capital. We had to grow with a lot of governance. We had to grow with a lot of efficiency. But I think that focus that the financial markets have is actually good for business. And that's the focus that we have. That can we build a company that also gets to be profitable without sacrificing on the growth rates that we want. So that's a new focus for the company. And me and my executives and my team are enjoying restructuring the company, thinking about that. So I don't think it's a challenge. I think it's a focus.
Okay. I've got a lot of other questions. I don't want to take too much of your time. We're running short on time. I've got two final questions, but before that, I want to go back to, I've got two daughters, and in fact, one is already showing some entrepreneurial characteristics. And what do you think it was? Did your dad coach you, or was it just kind of you were observing what he was doing and that kind of influenced you in one way or another?
That's so interesting. A lot of people have asked me that, but are you a born entrepreneur or is it a skill set that can be acquired? I think it has to be a combination of both. Definitely watching my dad helped a little, but my sister is not an entrepreneur. She's a PhD. We both share the same blood. We grew up in the same environment, but we are radically different people. I think for an entrepreneur, you have to be fearless and you have to know the discipline of working hard. I am a big believer there is no balance when you're an entrepreneur because your entire life is about your work. Like, I don't think about going on a vacation or let's go travel. I love what I do. I love it. I love it, love it, love it so much that I don't want to do anything else. So I think that is an internal skill set that when you find something that you are so passionate about, you are going to find a way to be successful. You need to have grit, you need to have determination, you need to have tenacity, you need to have a combination of being creative and scientific math capabilities. So I think some things are internal and some you can learn. And what I have heard from my investors that one of the things that they said early on when they were investing in the company, one of them said, his name is Jim Hoover, he said, I have always invested in a jockey, not the horse at the early stages, because a good jockey is going to make sure that the horse is a long horse. So I think with that, I think there are some things that can be learned and some are probably internal. I don't know. Maybe I'm an experiment. We'll see.
That's a fantastic insight. Final two questions. One is, and this may be redundant. If it is, then we can skip ahead. But one is, who has had the most profound influence on you?
Yeah. Through the stages of my life, different people. And I'm going to name a few that come top of mind to me. First is, of course, my dad, right? Watching him being an entrepreneur was great. But even as a child, like I grew up in Mumbai, which is like the Bollywood capital. I was never really interested in movie stars. My celebrities have always been entrepreneurs, always. Like that's what I was excited about. I would read about successful entrepreneurs like the Tatas in India. So first, my dad. Second, of course, Sam Zell. So when I came to US, I met Sam Zell. Just the brief conversations I've had with him. The one sentence that he would say, and I would go like, "Oh my God, like this is amazing! Like this is the first time someone is speaking my language." I think the third person was my first investor, Andy Bloom, entrepreneur, hedge fund, billionaire based out of Chicago. I learned a lot from him because of how he navigated. Like, I'm very aggressive at times, and sometimes you need to like bring me to the center and say, hey, focus. The way he managed me without killing my entrepreneurial instinct was pretty immense. And I would probably say that these are the three people that I can say that I learned the most from. But then whom I know, the people that I don't know and that I've followed passionately, Jeff Bezos, I'm a big fan of Amazon. I've read every single book. I think what they or he have been able to do in a short period of time is remarkable. That comes with a certain mindset. I'm a big fan of Tom Brady. There are entrepreneurial skill sets that he has. And so I think these are some of the influencers in my life, some whom I know and some I hope to know.
Excellent. Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
Yeah, so I'm very passionate about building other entrepreneurs. That's the cause I care about. So I just started the Baranwal Entrepreneurial Scholarship Fund at the University of Michigan, where every year about 10 students are going to get, because I got every single scholarship entrepreneurial that was at the university, I got that. And I used that money to start A/B testing different ideas while I was in business school. So now I want to give back. So I actually just launched that a few months back, and I'll be actually sharing it on LinkedIn. And I'm very excited about that. So, building other entrepreneurs is my passion, and that's my single passion.
That's wonderful. And is this for undergrads, grads?
So the scholarship could go to undergrad or grads. These are students who are willing to take the risk. Because when I was in business school, I saw a lot of kids who wanted to start companies. And right now I am on their boards and I see kids coming in. And very clearly, you can see this person is a genuine entrepreneur and this person is still struggling to find their base. And I always tell those in the latter bucket, go join an entrepreneur because you already like entrepreneurship, but you probably don't have it all the way there. Like if you've heard of this newspaper called Morning Brew, the guy who started Morning Brew was a Michigan undergrad. And I remember when he was like in his second year, sophomore, he actually came and pitched to us. And we all were like, this guy's going to make it. And look where Morning Brew is now. So I think finding that talent, because it's not just that those people become successful, they also land up changing the world. Like we are today, by the virtue of building this company, impacting the lives of millions of students and millions of teachers. I think that's what it's all about. So if my scholarship can help change the world in a way by having these entrepreneurs as a conduit, is what my passion is all about. Today, this scholarship is just for the University of Michigan. Eventually, I'll be expanding this and taking it to other locations. And in a few years, my goal is to go to refugee camps in Syria. And there are so many kids and women there where they don't get the opportunities to see if there is a way for us to take these skill sets there, all the learnings that I've had. But right now, I'm starting with this because I also don't have a lot of time to do anything beyond this right now.
Well, what a wonderful note to end on and how appropriate for our podcast and what we're focused on. Shaily, thank you so much again for taking the time. It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great.